It was God's original intent for us to be a collaborative community of priests. Through Moses, he spoke to his community, to the Jews, and said, "You will be for me a kingdom of priests." Kingdom is slang for the king's domain. You will be a place where everybody has a role to play. But they don't want to be different, because that meant they would be different than the other societies that had hierarchies. There were kings and there was regalia and different positionings, and we had celebrities and important people that took care of stuff. They don't want that. They don't want to be different than that. They wanted a king. They wanted to fit into the system of the cultures around them. This saying that we have a king but you can't see him was very embarrassing to them, and they just avoided that subject matter and said, "God, give us a king." And they negotiated and they negotiated and they negotiated, and God compromised with and gave them a king. Ironically, in the short space of history where there was a king that did something well was in David's time, and for that brief period of time, a priesthood existed. And way before it was technically appropriate for people to come into the presence of God, this priesthood gathered around this ark and worshipped. And it's a lovely, lovely metaphor and image in the history of the church. But most of our history is a struggle with wanting privilege, with wanting hierarchies, with all these different things that we tussle with, wanting to copy surrounding cultures. And the idea that we become a community that aggregates by the Spirit of God, where the smallest child, where the women, where the people who are visiting and don't speak, who are immigrants and don't speak properly English, where each one has something rich to bring to the table, is important. Jesus comes and he describes the worship experience this way. After all the struggle of the Old Testament, he says, when you come together, everybody has something to bring. Somebody reads a verse, somebody speaks in tongues and gives an interpretation, someone slips $50 in someone's pocket, someone gives someone a gift certificate to their famous restaurant, and then we leave and everybody feels strangely delighted by the sense of everybody throwing their lot into the ring. But it didn't take but 300 years for hierarchy to find its way back into the story of God's people. And instead of us all being priests, all of a sudden, one dude became the priest. He didn't even stood in their language. He spoke in another language that nobody could sing, and he sung these chants that nobody could follow, and we just watched. And we became an audience. And the moment we have an audience, we have a hierarchy. The moment you become the market for me, the moment you become the attendees, the moment you become the listeners or my audience, something really unfortunate has been transacted in the name of Christ. Are you with me? Am I boring? Okay. The moment that stuff happens, it's unfortunate, but we move from a couple hundred years of meeting predominantly in the evening in hospitality environments to formal environments where one dude sang in a language that no one could join in, and for 1,000 years, that was the experience of God's people coming together. And I'm not making a comment. None of what I'm saying is theological today. It's all sociological. The Reformation and the history from the 12s, 13, 1400s is basically there's this progressive journey in God's people of this tussle against hierarchy and against one dude being the priest and everybody not being able to be a part to play, where there's a step-by-step program where different people in history championed the idea, no, we all have dignity. The just will live by faith. Each of us, when Martin Luther pinned his process, he was interested in the fact that we would all become priests, all have a vital part in God's economy, and the subtext of the Reformation is the priesthood of believers.
Since your love got a hold of me, since your